Hi, welcome to my sailing channel. This is Arlen Rosenoff, and this is Kokua My Ride, a Catalina 30 sailboat. My home base is Bitter End Marina on Lake Pend Oreille in Bayview, Idaho. My plan was to leave Bayview and head up to anchor overnight in Garfield Bay. I took a little bit of a diversion into Granite Landing. I wanted to get a little closer to look at that little community. And then also, because I had such good downwind sailing, I was making great time. I headed over to the east to look at the Clark Fork River estuary as it dumps into Lake Pend Oreille. I've heard good things about it. It's really pretty over there. And then ended up dropping anchor and spending the night at Garfield Bay. On day two, headed up north to Sandpoint, and it was the first time that I'd sailed all the way up to the city in Sandpoint. I didn't stop at a dock or anything. I just got close enough to get a good view and then turned around and had some really good upwind sailing to Ellisport Bay near Hope, Idaho. Dropped anchor in Ellisport Bay and spent the night there. And then on day three, left Ellisport Bay and had some light downwind sailing and did some motoring back to Bayview on July 4th. Headed out of Bayview. Looks like I'm going to miss that rain shower. It's passing to the east of me, and I'm headed north. Pretty to look at, though. Looks kind of ominous right there. Blue skies ahead. Wing and wing, and about 10 knots of wind. Headed north. Headed for bluer skies. Granite Landing, straight ahead. I see the pilings ahead to the left that I don't want to run into. They're well marked on the chart. This is one of those places that is so far from civilization that it'd probably take an hour and a half just to get to a grocery store or gas station, but dang, talk about peaceful and quiet. nice out here. There's a thunderstorm up near Bonner's Ferry, but it's headed to the northeast, so it'll get to Canada before I see any of it. Just a nice day. Great sailing. It's really pretty where I'm at, and I'm still headed toward the Park Fork estuary. I'm keeping an eye on the weather to the west of me. It's a thunderstorm up north of Sandpoint. Looks like the mountain near Sandpoint is getting rain. Our radar indicates that there's lightning. I haven't seen any yet, and I shouldn't see any of it, but keeping an eye on it. Garfield Bay right back there. That's where I'm going to spend the night at anchor. That's farther north and headed to the northeast, thankfully. There it is. It's really pretty. The mountains are pretty, but I'm liking the weather less and less. So I'm gonna go find a place to drop anchor. There's Pearl Island. I've anchored off that island before. Glad I'm not headed that direction though. Definitely looks wet. We got lots of rain. I'm going to be headed that way. Looks like it's raining in Hope. Over there. Definitely raining at Sandpoint. Headed back south. And then I'm going to make a tack and cross the lake into Garfield Bay. Looking overhead and back at the development of the weather, in hindsight, now would have been a really good time to reef. Nope. One of those clouds that was closer overhead was about to dump about 1 billion cubic feet of cold air down toward the water, which was going to slam the water and then spread out horizontally into a squall or a gust front. It was different than a typical gust where you can look out over the water and see it coming. There was nothing to see. It was just there. This clip is the aftermath of the worst of it. The wind went from 9 knots to about 20 in a minute or two and shifted about 50 degrees in direction. And so as I was managing the boat, I eased up on the main sheet to keep the boat from burying the rail in the water. I tried to heave to and was unable to get the boat around into that position. The autopilot was also unable to hold any direction under those conditions, so I just had to basically hang on, one hand on the main sheet and one hand on the wheel. I eased up on the main sheet till it was completely slack and then just pulled a little tension in to keep the sail from flapping and tearing itself apart. The peak wind eventually reached 29 knots, and the whole episode lasted about, 7 or 8 minutes, and then what you see now is things actually easing up to the point where I could get my camera on my phone and show a little bit of it. I was taking so much spray, I was completely soaked. Motoring into Garfield Bay, looking forward to a pleasant evening and overnight stay. Anchored in Garfield Bay in about 30 feet of water, about 700 feet from shore. I heated up a can of corn chowder, and considering I was still cold and wet from my encounter with the squall, that went down pretty easy. About an hour after sunset, I woke up to thunder and lightning. Thunderstorm was moving through the area. Wind, lots and lots of rain. Had about a dozen lightning strikes within a mile to a mile and a half of the boat. The anchor held fast, so I went back to sleep.